So, finishing this thing off with the SNES era, and I had a hard time deciding who to pick, and then it hit me. Cecil Harvey. And I decided to make both of his forms because I honestly had no idea of who to pick, really. So while I could go for the the icon from the game with that strange helmet, I'd rather go with this helmet because it resembles his battle sprite a lot more closely. And I try to go for a style similar to his look in Dissidia Final Fantasy and the original design. And the roughest part was actually finding a correct breastplate for him, or Curtis rather. But overall, it was a fun build. It was really fun building Dark Knight Cecil here. It took a while to build him because I needed to, work around the parts I had and whatnot. Now the interesting thing is that one of Cecil's DLC forms in Dissidia Duodecim Final Fantasy, which is the sequel to Dissidia Final Fantasy, which is pretty much Smash Bros for Final Fantasy on the PSP. And yes, I said PSP, not PSP. Yeah, either way. One of those downloadable, DLC outfits for Cecil in that game is his Paladin and Dark Knight look from the original game, from Final Fantasy IV. So it's a nice little thing that you can actually get that. The only problem is I wish it was some kind of neat unlockable, like maybe reach level 100 as Cecil and get this and unlock this form in the PP catalog or something. I don't know. I understand that they wanted that it probably was made later on in development when the game was already finished and released. Similar to the DLC characters in Smash Bros. It's the same thing I feel for the. It's pretty much the same way I feel for the DLC outfits for Squall and Cloud in the game, which is pretty much their Kingdom Hearts looks. Squall as his Leon look with the long hair and whatnot, and Cloud with the cloth wrapped around his sword, and that one angel. The one angel wing and whatnot. Yeah, it's neat. This was a really fun build to do as well, so... Well, not really fun build, but still. But yeah, we're almost We're almost done with this build, and the fun thing is, while I could give him Nightmare's fighting style and pretty much give him, the dark sword of the Soul Calibur universe, I'd rather actually went with Mitsurugi and the Yukiyasu sword, because the blade is red, and if you get the Deathbringer, which you do in the story, because it's Cecil's best weapon as a Dark Knight, the blade is actually red when you swing it. So yeah, if you watch this and then after you're finished, you know, play the game up to the part where you get Deathbringer, get into a battle and swing it, and you'll see what I mean. So that's why I wanted to have Uniyashu, because it, or Uniyukiyashu, because it looks really similar to the Deathbringer sword. And just so I don't confuse them, and to make it easier for you guys when you when we do part 2 of the Soul Calibur series next year, I'm gonna name this one Cecil, and within parentheses DK, which stands for Dark Knight. No, it doesn't stand for Danish or for Donkey Kong. It says for Dark Knight. And no, World of Warcraft nerds, it doesn't stand for Death Knight. Personally, I would prefer the name Dark Knight. Now, I was going for the Xianghua fighting style, but the reason why I went for Siegfried's fighting style instead is that, well, Xianghua's fighting style, while, you know, really fast and whatnot, I don't really like it that much. The reason for that is one of the victory poses is, well, it doesn't really fit Cecil's character, and while that is the issue for many of the custom characters in this game, such as maybe if you make like a Belmont, for instance, from Castlevania, and you give him Ivy's fighting style, sure, it's the only way for you to get a whip into the game, but it gives them more of this like dominatrix-esque fighting style, and it doesn't really fit the Belmont family. So, and the fun thing is, that was actually pointed out to me by Dragoff Belmont, who said that that's his only gripe with the Soul Calibur series, is the fact that at times the weapon, the fighting styles doesn't quite match up with the characters you make, which makes me really miss the way Soul Calibur 3 handled it, which was the first instance of a character creator. Because in that game, while if you played like long enough and whatnot, you could, with time, unlock more classes and unlock the soul of blank, which is pretty much, you know, what this is. You take the soul of one of the already existing characters and you get their weapons and whatnot. In that game, in the third game, they all had unique weapons. Like, you still had great swords and whatnot, but they didn't copy any moves from like Siegfried or Nightmare, which is really cool. Well, time to get into the coloring, and then we pick a weapon, and then we name this guy, and then we're done. Now, to be fair, usually when I create Cecil in this game, I tend to go for his Dissidia look. But I decided for once, you know, I wanted to go as close as I could to the look from the actual Final Fantasy IV game. So, yeah, if you want me to remake both forms of Cecil, but to follow more closely to the look they have in Dissidia, then tell me in the comments of this video, and I will pretty much for next time show you any changes that I made to the characters, in case you guys want want me to change them. If not, if you think that they look just fine and that it's really cool to see that I attempted to get closer to the source material for these two, then you know, just tell me not to change it. Gee, making these videos and like commentating and whatnot, it really gets your throat dry, and I guess that's one thing with doing like Let's Plays and these kind of videos, is that you really keep yourself hydrated. Because during these videos you need to commentate and you need to talk, so when you talk and commentate too much, your throat gets really dry. That way you remind yourself of actually drinking water or drinking something in general, which could either lead to alcoholism, or for the best way, it will lead to you staying hydrated. And I go for the latter. Like, I usually make sure that my water bottle is filled, or at least as close to filled as I could. And just a session of recording puts me to about close to half of my water bottle, you know, just to make sure that I have like half of it left. So yeah, I guess that's one good thing I can say about having this as a hobby. And that's something I also want. That's also a point I want to get across to my viewers, you guys. That being that I never intend for this to be my job. Sure, I make quote unquote money off of this, but it's not nearly enough for me to actually make a living on it. So this is more of a hobby for me than anything else. And the reason why I give him Soul Calibur Final Form is that the sword you get when Cecil becomes a paladin, Myth Gravenblade, the reason why you can't throw that away is because it becomes his ultimate weapon, which is Excalibur, later in the game. So that's yet another neat little reference to, you know, having them bringing their ultimate weapons into the Battle of the Swords. But just to fit the character limit, Cecil, and within parentheses, Pella. And there we go, that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.